And now we're going to move on to consent calendar. And that is consent calendar. All items are considered routine or implemented an earlier council action and may be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussions unless requested. I know we're going to make a comment on I. I believe, I usually let you folks start. So let me, sorry, I jumped. Go ahead. Anybody who would like an item pulled for a separate vote? Not seeing any separate votes, but obviously maybe some additional questions or comments. I had said I. Is there other items under consent?
Item G, Mr. Mayor.
G. Got it. Thank you. Any others, colleagues? I was going to say item E. Just wanted to. We had the ad hoc and just kind of bring a little update on that. So with that, why don't we go ahead and, okay. I'm just being notified there is a hand up in the public, and I don't know if it was for the presentation or if it's on consent. So why don't we bring in our speaker, please?
Paul Wapinski.
It's regarding 5G. Should I talk now, or do you want to wait?
I'll announce it, and then we will get to that, and we'll bring you in. Thank you very much. Okay, so let's go back to the consent. We have 3 items. One is item E, authorized fireworks ban permits for 2021 upon findings that the nonprofit organizations met requirements of Resolution 2008-67, 2009-49, and ordinance numbers 1700 and 1840. And I'd ask my colleague, Councilmember Salazar, to chime in too, please, but there are 13 groups. Last year there were 14. There's a maximum of 18. If there's more than 18, then there's the lottery. Keeping in mind there are 9 that are grandfathered in from the beginning of this process. As was indicated earlier, they have application process, which asks various questions. It asks as far as the group, which, as you can see in your report, various groups, Scouts, baseball, Lions, Rotary, American Legion, etc. And they go ahead and do that and deal with the 2 firework vendors that they kind of coordinate, help file the state paperwork. They have to be a nonprofit. They're usually giving back, and they're doing things in San Bruno, and they ask for a description on the application. Hey, you know, what are these funds being used for? A lot of them are scholarships within the organizations, or soccer, so that if there's the need that way, or equipment or other type of activities that they do. There's also, they have to be current on the monies. They can't be owing monies from past. And like I said, we had 13 this year, and I think 14th will come back, but it is a maximum of 18. And I'll let Councilmember Salazar talk about our suggestion going forward for an ad hoc and the need or relevance for it, because he obviously was good, did an Excel spreadsheet to make sure everybody was meeting the criterias, which staff puts together. So, Councilmember Salazar.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And so, yeah, I've been on the subcommittee for a few years, and it's generally, the process is that we review the stack of applications. There's a number of pieces of information that are required by ordinance that we look for, and so we just make sure that all of the paperwork is there. We look for that the permit from the state fire marshal, which is required. So every group is required to do that. Most of the paperwork is actually done by the fireworks companies themselves, and so they're pretty diligent in filling out the forms and having the permission from the owners all submitted. And so it is fairly routine. The groups that are doing it have been doing this consistently for many years, and so they're known quantities in the community. They know their process, and so it is fairly routine. We had a conversation around, whether the subcommittee is required. I believe that our consensus was that it's really not, staff is doing an adequate job of vetting it and meeting all the requirements. And so our involvement is very, it's redundant to the process. We're not really adding a lot of value. We don't vet anything. We're not making any judgments. It's really just validating that everything is up to par with the ordinance. And I haven't found any inconsistencies in my time in doing it. And so, I don't feel that it's required that we do it, and the ordinance makes it optional. So I'm sure it'll be up to future councils and mayors to decide if they want to bring it back. But I would say, in my opinion, it's not something that's absolutely necessary.
And I concur with Councilmember Salazar, and even it goes to, I believe it was June 2nd, the police and fire had a mandatory meeting with the users or somebody from the organization, and if they didn't attend that, then they wouldn't be here tonight. So it's at this stage that they've met all the criteria, made the $750 payment, registered with the state, etc. So anyway, that is our feedback, and we just wanted to update you since we had said we would follow that up. Is there any questions on that? Councilmember Hamilton?
Is there I don't recall from patronizing these stands in the past. Is there a requirement that the fireworks must be sold to a resident of San Bruno, like they check IDs and that sort of thing? And if not, have we ever considered having that be a requirement in the past? Because I know cities like Gilroy do that.
I'm going to say no, but once you see the city attorney up in there, I'm going to go right to him.
I'm not aware of what Gilroy does. Are you saying that there's a requirement that they can only sell to residents of the city in Gilroy?
Yeah, I read that in a news report, so I can't. It's not necessarily.
That seems like
legal.
A very unusual requirement that might be a violation of the Interstate Commerce Clause, among many other things. But without really knowing about that, I'd have to check. So normally it's very difficult to restrict sales to some geographic area because, yes, for a lot of different reasons.
Understood. So, thank you.
Thank you for the question. Vice Mayor Medina, did you have a question? Oh, this is for the next topic. Okay. Okay. All right. If nothing else, we're going to go on to G, and that was adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with the Alta Planning and Design for the development of the city's safe routes to school plan in an amount not to exceed $265,416. And we did have a member of the public that wanted to speak on this. So if City Clerk, if you can bring in Paul.
Yes, Paul Wapinski, I'm bringing you back in.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I read this a couple of times because it's still kind of not clear what exactly this is supposed to accomplish. And I understand it's a grant, but it seems like there's a lot of bucks being spent for little bang. It seems like the bottom line intent is to ask parents not to drive their kids to school. So couldn't that be done in a way of like maybe sending an email to them or a letter to them instead of spending $250,000? Thank you.
Thank you for your comment, and I'm going to bring it back to City Council and Vice Mayor Medina.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm sure staff could do a way better job of explaining what this grant actually does. I recall being at one of the workshops, and if I pulled it because I think it's important that our community know how we are working with our schools, how important our student safety is, and if staff could just give a little bit more background on it and explain the extent of what's going to happen with this money, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Yes, so the Safe Routes to School program, the goal is to identify through various means, walking audits, surveys, engagement with, I think one of the critical components is engagement with the community between the city and the school, and the students and their parents, is to understand what some of the hurdles might be. We understand that we can encourage them to walk and bike when they can, but there may be fundamental structural obstacles that mentally don't make them feel comfortable doing so. And so what the Safe Routes to School plan does is to allow for those to be identified through engagement and then through the walking audit. And in addition to infrastructure changes, there's also programmatic programs that can be identified. And so this plan, what it does, it is grant funded. There is a small local match, but what it does is to allow us to be more competitive for those grants, because some of the infrastructure improvements could be more substantial. And so this makes us more competitive because we've had that community engagement and there's a process, and it is a well-recognized document.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I was wondering if, because I recall staff, city staff, I remember Councilmember Laura Davis walked along with myself and students, parents over at Bel Air. Is this in addition to the work at Bel Air?
It is. There are the number of schools identified were the public schools and the private schools, and we've reached out to the schools to understand their interest. Caltrans does allow us to, if the school is not interested, for instance, a private school has indicated that they were not interested in participating for one reason or another, and so they do allow flexibility, but we did identify the various schools. And one additional school was reached out to us after this the RFP proposal process, and so we have added them, but we could potentially swap them with the one that didn't want to, or there could be some potential savings.
Right. Thank you very much. And Mr. Mayor, Superintendent Espinosa sent us an email, and I just wanted to make sure to acknowledge his appreciation.
Well, I think let's just read it. City Manager Grogan and Mayor Medina, and you were also CC'd. I'm emailing because I noticed that you will be discussing and taking action on the Safe Routes to School plan. I wanted to let you know that our school board and district, we appreciate our city working to ensure that our students are safe as they walk to and from school. Thanks again, and have a great meeting. And then again from the superintendent, Jose Espinoza. And I was at that, I think they call it I have to ask the vice mayor. I think they call it a walking audit, or and I was at the Bel Air one too. You just sent me.
Right. We were on the other side.
So it was interesting to actually watch students and hear from the folks that came together. And you actually, when you're looking at it, which I can tell you, is you kind of see it in different perspectives and different set of eyes about potential hazards or angles or maybe vegetation that should be cut back and things like that. That, you drive by, you don't think about it, but when you're actually watching these young people coming to and from, or their folks or guardians getting them, it's in a different light. So I see value to that. So is there anything else from my colleagues on item G? Let's move to item I. Accept resignation from Traffic and Safety and Parking Committee member effective May 28, 2021, and direct the city clerk to post a vacancy notice in accordance with state law. And what this is not somebody's leaving, they're just now going to have another role. So Marco Durazo has been serving on the Traffic Safety and Parking Committee as its chair. Now has joined the San Bruno Planning Commission. So we'll say that the mayor and vice mayor wanted to make sure that was acknowledged and thank him for the service to the SPC. He didn't outdo Tom, though, as far as Tom's years on the TSPC, but we very much appreciate the time and effort and folks that are willing to give up their time to help better the community. Is there anything else on consent? Is there any action from my colleagues?
I'll make a motion to approve the items on
Okay.
Okay, there we go. A motion at Hamilton, second Salazar. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Hamilton.
Aye.
Councilmember Mason.
Aye.
Councilmember Salazar.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Marty Medina.
Aye.
Mayor Rico Medina.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much.